Health, of course, they say, is a state of physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Good afternoon and welcome to Wellbeing, one show that keeps you updated on trending health issue. Of course, you know my name. I am Emedion James, your health anchor. And today we are going to have an interesting conversation. Of course, you know, on Wellbeing, we have every time on Wellbeing, we bring to you the best and nothing but the best. But there's something about today's show that I do not want you to miss for any reason. So this is it. I'm telling you to pick your diary, pick your pen, because trust me, there is always something to learn every time we come here on Wellbeing. On today's show, we are going to talk about a very common but not so common, topic that most times people even take advantage of it today. Now you'll be having a conversation with somebody and they'll be saying it and you're like, really? How did this become a joke? Exactly, that's what we're talking about today. And of course, joining me on this show is a clinical psychologist in the person of Udwara Bongtom. She will be telling us lots and lots of stuff and things today about mental health, but not the regular mental health like you know. But then again, I'm going to allow her to speak for herself. Hello, Ma, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Emedion, for having me. It's a pleasure.
How's it feel being on Wellbeing today?
It's a privilege.
Yes, it's always a privilege to be here. So let's hit the ground running before, Abba switches us off. When they say mental health,
Okay.
Mental health has become a conversation that we now joke. We don't joke with. We're having a conversation with someone will say, please, how affects my mental health? So when we say mental health, what do we really mean?
Okay, when you talk about mental health with the state of our mind and our emotion, mental health is not actually the absence of illness. It's how we are able to balance our emotions, how we are able to balance and behave when the need arises.
Great. So, but if mental health is, it's not just the absence of disease or infirmity, why is there so much stigma with this particular mental health?
Okay, and there are a lot of stigma because there are some misconceptions when we had to when we are talking about mental health, and most times the fact that the word mental health, some people, there's this misconception that when you hear the word mental health that it has to do with madness or psychosis. Of course, it could include that, but it's not just limited to that. I think we'll get to know about, some part of it as we progress.
Okay, so is there a difference between mental health and mental illness? Are they the same or it's different?
Of course, before you can say a person is having a mental illness, there must be an assessment and must be diagnosed for you to say the person has a particular mental illness. But mental health, like I said, is a state of our mind, is a state of our emotion, what we think, how we feel, and what goes up there in our mind.
Great. So this is it. I know earlier you mentioned, you talked about schizophrenia. Let's look at the types of mental health that we have. Okay. If it's beyond just, it's more than just being,
Okay.
How many types do we have?
We have as many as possible, but for the sake of time, I love to, categorically state. We have the emotional mental health, which the depression, and withdrawing from social setting, and then mood disorder falls under. So we have the depression part of it as an example of emotional mental health, and then we have the psychological mental health, where schizophrenia falls under. Okay, we have other a problem like the bipolar. We have different issues that falls under that, but the psychological mental health has to do with the kind of mental illness that impact or impede on our thoughts process. Okay, anything that has to do that impede or affect our thought process, like the schizophrenia that we mentioned, of course, which is characterized by hallucination and delusion, and there are different things that falls under that. Apart from that psychological, we have the behavioral mental health, which issues of substance use and abuse falls under. The eating disorder, where we have the bulimia nervosa and the anorexia nervosa, where people tend to eat. For instance, let's say a person that is on the chubby side wishes to be slim. That's why a psychologist said that there is no normal person. Is either everybody is abnormal in a way, because you may not be physically ill, or you may not be medically, ill, but you are not just okay. Maybe financially you are not okay, spiritually you are not okay. So that's why they said everybody is abnormal in a way. Okay, so when a person is having a behavioral problem or disorder, like the eating disorder we're trying to explain, the person that is on the chubby side needs to be slimmy, or to be slim fit.
Yeah.
And by so doing, the person
Stops
is staying
eating.
away from food, trying to stay away from food, so that thinking that maybe the mindset that once I stop eating, I will reduce in weight, which may end up developing another problem, as well as a person who is slim and wishes to be chubby,
the other
and
side.
then eat, and you now develop other problems and complications. So there are different types of mental illness, and it falls, each has their own disorders under that. We have social mental illness, where people that interaction with in the social setting, that withdrawal from relationships generally, your social relationship, that's where the social mental health falls under, and that's one of the examples.
Last, like we say in Nigeria, this life is not really balanced. But today, we'll try as much as possible to make sure that we balance this life. So earlier you mentioned mood swing.
Okay.
Is mood swing, can we classify mood swing as a mental health problem?
It is, definitely it is. And when we said mood swing, it's what we call a bipolar depression. And bipolar, the word bipolar is like from two.
Yeah.
Now, from one extreme to another. Now we are trying to strike a balance. A person who is having a mood swing, at a point the person is, is having this excitement, euphoric nature, and before you know it, the person is down all of a sudden. And it's not something that you just watch a person being elated and happy. All of a sudden, the person is sliding down and can't just explain why he or she is feeling that way. So withdrawing from the social setting and the things that interest the person before. And then before you could say a person is having a bipolar disorder or a depression, that means it is clinically diagnosed. And then the person has, if a person has a depression as one of the mental illness, and it has been diagnosed, it means the person is having what I call the three dangerous Ds. Maybe the person is having a feeling of despair, the person is having that's a hopeless, feeling hopeless, feeling worthless, and then the person is also experiencing a sense of death, having suicidal ideation, or the person is dangerous both to himself or to any other person around them. And that is when you can actually say the person, okay, this person has a depressive tendency, but it has to be diagnosed or through assessment, before you can tag a person down.
Let's talk about depression for a moment. You just mentioned something that really, really got to me. And I'd like to know, first off, can we say that all women are mentally not stable? Because mood swing is something very common amongst women, and you just said here that it can be classified as a mental health problem. So is it safe to say that all the women
I wanted to know that also. Okay, let's say for instance a woman who just put to bed, there's what we call postpartum depression, and the person is having that feeling, okay? And don't forget that depression is actually different from sadness. You can be sad as a result of not eating, or as a result of not having money. Or situation is not just aligning the way you wanted it to go. That is not depression. That is sadness, in the sense that if those factors are being taken care of, you will be fine.
Also, depression, even when you have money,
you can be fine.
In Nigeria.
But for you to, please note that I said for you to be diagnosed that you are depressed, for you to tag a person that this person is depressed, you must diagnose it through an assessment. I can't just look at you and say, Emedion, you look sad, okay, because you are just down, and say, you feel depressed. No, that cannot be possible. But mood swing is common. Of course, one of the, let's say as women or as ladies, sometimes when you're having your show and you tend to feel somehow, okay? And that does not mean that you have a mental problem. Okay. Okay, it's just a mood that changes at that moment. And maybe after that period elapses, you can now get yourself back again. But before you could say the person has a mental problem that you tag the person or you classify it under any level, whether it is psychological, whether it is emotional, whether it is social, physical, and whatever. It must first of all be assessed and then diagnosed clinically before you can tag the person.
Thank you so much for giving clarity to that, because I know that these guys would have come for me, mainly just leave the studio. But this is it. You keep talking about diagnose, get diagnosed. What are the common signs that you can look at somebody and just say, okay, fine, I think you should at least, I don't want to say you are depressed, but at least you need to see a therapist?
Okay, I think I mentioned few as we were discussing. One of the ways that you know that the person is clinically depressed, you know, over time, this individual, let's say for instance, a person that was highly extroverted and tend to be outgoing, you know, always there, all of a sudden the person withdraw from the things that used to interest the person most. The person is not, you know, taking care or attending to it again. You're saying, okay, this is, let's say for instance, let's use football. You know, many people love, the guys and some ladies, they love football. And then if it is like your favorite fan or your football
Liverpool
club is playing, and then this is things that used to interest you most, and then it happens, you don't find interest in it again. There's something wrong. That was not you initially. And then these individuals, they tend to forget about themselves, their physical, their affect. They ignore it. Someone can carry the beers and become, you know, untidy and unkempt without minding. Or some people could even wear left and left slippers and get to the junction without even minding. Okay, you notice that they withdraw from social setting. They withdraw from things that used to interest them most. They also have these feelings of despair. They just feel life is not fair to them. And most times it usually leads to having suicidal ideation and then thinking of taking their lives as well.
Wow, thank you so much for such detailed explanation. Please, if you're listening to us right now and you've noticed one or two signs, you know, you just have that thought of, killing yourself or doing something hurtful to yourself or to someone else, or you just notice that at some point, I know that, I don't want to say what is on my mind, but let's say that you are a Man U fan right now and you not notice that Man U want to play and you don't want to watch. I think you need help. You need to go see a therapist. Moving on, let's talk about childhood trauma, okay, and how it can, affect an adult's mental health. Because to be very honest, I know I used to hear people say that the way you were brought up can affect your mental health, but I find it very hard to believe because I know that, like in the Bible, they would say, when I was a child, I thought, I spoke, I understood, but now, I've outgrown and I've left those things. So how can your childhood upbringing traumatize your adult stage in life?
Okay, I like to say that every adult woman, they were once girls.
Yeah, true.
And sometimes the little girl within is still crying inside of them. Okay, most of them experience when we talk about childhood emotional trauma or childhood experience, it's as a result of the hurt that the child or the individual experience while growing up. Those hurtful, negative hurtful experiences ranging from, rejection, bad words, and, complain over the person. For instance, I want to use myself as an example. Growing up in a particular place, I had this significant fellow in my life. And, the words, that's why I believe that the words of significant people in our lives count really a lot. And in the course, I think we were playing or something happened. I broke a plate or something happened. And she said a word. I think she used the word goat. Oh. And to me, using words gets at me easily. So I thought it was over not until when I get to the university and we had our first class. If you are conversant with the Nigerian setting, the GST class, we were so many in that class. And the lecturer had asked a question. And I think it was something I know that had to do with the computer. And I knew the answer. So I was whispering the answer to my friend. And she said, say it out now. Say it out loud. I said, no. in my mind, what was going on in my mind was the word of that significant fellow many years ago. I said, you are a goat. So I said, who is a goat? A goat is a stubborn person that doesn't know anything. What if I say it and it's truly that I'm a goat? You understand? And the woman heard what I whispered to my friend and said, somebody's saying it here. Say it out. I started perspiring, my palms, my nose. You know, I was shivering and shaking. Until after some time, the woman said, well, you were not bold enough. The person was not bold enough to say it. The answer is actually this. And that was what I whispered to my friend. So words, really, you know, just throwing words at your child, thinking that is just a child. Every child is unique and different, you know, in their own ways. So there are some that you will say words and it will impact on the adulthood of that person. Okay. So adult experience, for instance, let's say a child who was criticized while growing up will end up trying to be a perfectionist, having self-doubt as an adult. You've done it, you think it's not okay, you just need to do it. I don't know whether you've come across such people, they just want to do it. You say it's okay, say no, it's not fine by me. You just want to do it. That is someone who was maybe criticized and then is struggling with self. How about a person that was abused as a child? These are all, abuse is one of the childhood experiences that children tend to, face. And growing up, the person will grow into an adult who has maybe let's say fear for intimacy. The person is always ashamed, you know, maybe to speak out even when someone is actually trying to molest this person. So there are different types of childhood experiences that navigate, you know, into our adulthood. Like what Sigmund Freud said, he said that there is this inner little self, you know, most times, and once our individual personality has a whole lot, you know, it results from our behavior or what happened to us in the past. So if we can dig deep, most of the wounds that we experience is as a result of the echoes from our childhood, you know, wound that were not healed in the past. So if we are able to, if an adult now who was abused at one point or the other as a child would definitely, you know, express that nature as an adult now. But you can actually conquer that. There are different, I think maybe with time we'll talk about that. But there are types of childhood traumas that navigate into the adulthood and affect us.
Of course, you know, thank you so much for that explanation. But then again, see, we are Nigerians. And it is now that the 21st century parents are really, really trying. But of course, come on. In those days, our parents will slap you to get to raise you up. And that was, see, sometimes, okay, let me tell you a story. My niece was crying all night. Okay. And my mother told my sister, just leave her there. Let her cry. When she's done crying, my mom said, let her cry for like 5 minutes. Then you now can carry her. She now said, that's what she used to do. That, when you cry too much, she just leave you. And then you go and do something. Then you now come back and carry you. By that time, you have cried finished. And it has entered. You were even
You're not looking for who to pick you up.
So this is it. As an average Nigerian, I was raised in such harsh way, and today it was not really harsh. How can we actually heal? Because to be very honest, I can't, you know, I don't know if you saw on social media a girl, a young teacher, a very young teacher, beat up a 3-year-old and she had so many wounds. Yeah. And when you saw the girl, and to be very, God forgive me, but when I saw the wound, I'm like, do you understand? This is what we used to go through now, way back as secondary school.
Not now again. Oh.
Okay, so now someone like that who grew up to know that this is the way forward, this is how to correct someone, how can that person heal and outgrow, you know, that mindset? Okay,
I want to say that, you know, if you are not healed personally as an individual, maybe who was exposed to abuse of any kind while growing up, it will definitely affect your relationship or your interpersonal relationship with both your family, immediate family, and, you know, others that come across you.
Sorry for interrupting you. When you say healing, because the only healing that we know is, you know, when you have malaria, but emotional healing, what does that even mean?
Okay, emotional healing has to do with what is going on in your mind, and then how you feel and how you process those thoughts going on in your mind. Then how do you get to heal from such, because at this point, if it is, let's say, the medical related pains, you can get to the pharmacy and then get over-the-counter drugs and you are fine. But for now, I would say that you have to air out your, your pains. If any pain that is not expressed cannot be healed. Okay, so you just have to acknowledge it. Yes, acknowledge your pains. Great. Acknowledge your pains, and then it will get to the point of being healed. But if you minimize it or repress it, like the psychoanalyst says, there is what we call defense mechanism, where repression is one of it, where you tend to like put down, you just bring any inconvenience and uncomfortable thoughts, you try to take it back or suppress it or repress it such that it will not come to bear. But if you keep doing that, when occasion arises, it will pop up again. So all you need to do is acknowledge the pain instead of minimizing it, so that it can be dealt with. True. Okay, that's one way you can do that. And you can talk to a therapist. You can talk to a therapist for support, so that you can, we have this safe space, non-judgmental space where you can express yourself, where you can talk about the way you feel, where your feelings can be validated. There are people you get to talk to. They say, be a woman, or in this world where women are even being told what to do and what not to do, even before they tend to live their dreams. And most of them, in this world, they are just bottling up. They said, be strong, you are a strong person, you are this. If you can get to that safe space where you can express yourself, you can seek for help and support, rather than just staying in it and ruminating over it. True. Such problems. It will either, it's not going to end well. Instead, it's going to complicate the issue. And a person that is not healed, remember, any person that is has been abused by one that is not healed at one point or the other would definitely bring it to continue to be a cycle of a bad emotion, and you hurt other people. Ladies hurt, or any other person, it can hurt a person, not because they are bad people, but because they are bleeding and they need this help. Without the help, it becomes a problem to them and to others around them. Yeah,
there is this popular quote that says, hurts people. And, you talked about bleeding now. And trust me, if you stay close to someone that is bleeding, you would get them. Yeah. But then, how do I know that I even need healing? I mean, I grew up to see my mother beat the hell out of people to correct their mindset. Okay. And even in today's comedy, in today's kids, you see how, they'll show a video of maybe a gentle parenting in US, and then somebody say, if it was my mother, by now my backhand. Now, how do I even know that something is wrong with me? Yeah,
because there are different ways. Culture change, things change and evolve. Culture evolve. So now the way our parents raised us in the past is different from today's 21st century children and kids. Okay, so you need to be when once, of course, you see that the way you are raising yours is different from, instead of correcting. Okay, for instance, I talked about the types of childhood problems. Over controlling your child would lead to a child that doesn't trust others. Okay, so if, for instance, you wish to raise a child that you want the child to trust easily, or to trust you as, first of all, as the parent, and then be able to navigate through life. By over controlling, I mean you are not policing the child. There are people that just for you to stay. I can remember growing up, my dad came to meet one of our neighbors who was a male neighbor, living another family. He said, that guy that you are standing with, we are standing outside. He said, you will get pregnant. And when you get pregnant, I'll send you out of this house. Oh, just doing nothing. Now, what that paint in our mind was that you should be afraid of men, so I now graduated from secondary school. I couldn't even look at a guy in the face. You are talking, I'm drawing map on the floor, I'm sweating, I'm jittering, which is not okay. Your self-esteem is actually affected. So once you notice that the way you are raising your own kids is not the way it's supposed to be, that's why you need to update yourself, read, update yourself, attend conferences, seek for help when necessary, and that is going to help you a whole lot.
Let's also talk about the men. I think last month, a man came out on social media and was talking about the emotional burden of being a young father, a first-time father too. And people came out on social media and said it was not man enough. Why is he complaining? So for a man, how can a man open up and heal from his own childhood traumas?
You know, there's this misconception that men are the strongest people. Men are not supposed to talk. They're supposed to cry. They're not supposed to shed their emotions or be seen crying. But they are actually dying within. So as a man, you need to, for you to be healed, of course, now we've heard of domestic violence, men, you know, abusing women, but we also have women that are abusing men. Okay, so for you to be able to come out of such, you need to open up. You know, we encourage, you know, you getting to, is different from opening up to anybody. When you open up to anybody, they will just get the detail of your information on whatsoever thing you are passing through. True. And it will become the next social media topic. But if you actually get to a safe space where you can express yourself and get the help, because there is also what you don't know that another person knows that can help you to, you know, navigate through that phase easily and better. So you need to open up to someone reliable, a therapist. You can get to a therapist and then you open up, this is what you are passing through and this is what you are facing, and then they will tell you how to navigate through that phase of your life.
Thank you. I know you've talked about, you know, reach out to a therapist, but in the world, I mean, in the 21st century, everybody's a therapist. Everybody knows how to, I mean, make relationship work. In fact, the singles are the ones who are even giving up this advice. So in a time like this, how can we, you know where to go to? Because when you talk about therapists, what comes to people's mind is marriage.
Wow.
Seriously. So, I mean, why would I go to a therapist unless it's a relationship problem? So how can we encourage people to look? Therapy is beyond, you know,
in line love. With this year, fortunately, we are still in October. Yeah. And this month is when the WHO marked the World Mental Health Day. True. And in the theme for this year was accessing services, mental health, accessing services, mental health in catastrophe and emergency. So how can you access, you know, have access to mental health facilities so that you can vent out? We have several, okay? Apart from individual practices, I think we have one in Teaching Hospital in Akwa Ibom State. We have Department of Mental Health. You don't need to just talk to any other person. I think we have another place, you know, in Sidake where they talk to people. There are many people that, the University of Uyo, Department of Psychology, we have, you know, a consultation room there where we take care of people. And also, so anyone that fits you most, and then a reliable, not just talking to anybody. Like she said, of course, there are many single people that are talking. There are many non-professionals that are talking, depending on what you want. If you actually want to talk, there is what we call talk therapy. You can just talk to anybody and maybe you are fine. But if you truly want to, you know, get healed and get solution to the problem that you are passing through, I think you don't just need to talk to just anybody. You need to talk to the professional.
Thank you so much for that, you know, clarity. So you see that it's possible that you could get the help that you need. So if I listen to us right now and you notice that you still have that childhood problem, to be very honest, I never really used to think that those childhood problems could affect you until one day I had to look back into my life and I could see patterns. I could see, oh, this is it. And then, you know, I started to look for help. And one of the things that she mentioned was read. So read and pay attention to your body. Before we go, because our time is almost up, what will be your last words to everybody struggling right now and they are ashamed to, you know, speak up?
You are not alone. What you are passing through, somebody might have passed through it already. Okay, so you don't need to give up. You don't need to, there is help. Okay, you don't need to give up dying alone or dying in silence. You need to speak up. That is where your healing starts. The more you open up, the better you get. If you want to navigate through any form of pain, please don't keep it to yourself. It will not do any good. Rather, seek for help. Open up to the right person and seek for the support that will benefit you in the future.
Thank you so much, Ma, for being a part of today's show. I wish we had the time, you know. I know that I know you still have lots of things to tell us, but then, you know, it's time up. So this is it. Seek for the right help. if you really want to reach out to her personally, you can message us on our WhatsApp number, or you can go to a social media page at Spectrum TV or our website at www.spectrumtvlive.ng, and we will connect you as soon as possible. But then if you can't, you can go to University of you. I'm even surprised that, right, we have a mental facility where you can actually just go there and talk to somebody. One of the best things that you can do to yourself is talk to the right person. In the world where everybody's a content creator, trust me, the last thing you want to see is your story on social media.
Yeah.
So go to the right source and talk to them. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show once again.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this show to the very end. We love you so much. Like I used to say on Wellbeing, you know, you would have paid so much to get this information, but we always bring it to you in a platter of gold. And that is to say that for you to keep getting information like this, you have to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can go to our website where all our social media handles are there. My name is John James. Till I come your way, same time, same station. Please take care of yourself and talk to the right people. Goodbye.